This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize the headlines that you may have missed this morning. And we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 6th of May 2022, and I am DK.
I am Serbia.
And I am GK.
Yes.
In case you missed the headlines, here they are. The Daily Nation, economic boom, but who gained from the growth? The Standard, workers' worst year as economy recovers. The Star, RUTO still ahead, Raila closes gap, survey. And finally, the People Daily, rich economy, empty wallets. So, before we get into the headlines, allow me to begin with my contributions today.
Yeah.
Today, we would like to ask a question. Why is the RUTO camp involving themselves in the business of Azimio? And why are they angling for Kalonzo to deputize Raila? We would like to submit 3 reasons for why they would like to do this. And on this, we could be wrong.
But we don't choose to be right.
1, perhaps the RUTO brigade is trying to weaken Raila by sticking him with Kalonzo again.
Could it be?
Through this, they are promoting a ticket that we know does not work. History has shown us that fact. In 2013 and in 2017, Kalonzo deputized Raila in the race for the presidency. And in both occasions, the Railonzo ticket did not manage to pass the threshold of 50% plus 1. And so it would make perfect sense for UDA to back Kalonzo because they would want their opponents to follow the same blueprint that has proved ineffective in the past. 2, and I'd like to put this in the form of a question. Is it possible that RUTO is championing Kalonzo's cause because it makes his betrayal of Gema that much more digestible?
Acceptable.
Allow me to explain. RUTO may want to select Mudavadi as his running mate. This is because Mudavadi is the candidate who isolates Gema the most. However, he does understand that he can't be seen to make this move first. This is why UDA is messing with Kalonzo's head to make him feel like he's owed the deputy president position. RUTO is playing the long game. The question is, who loses in this equation? It's not rocket science. It will be the Gema nation that could stand the chance of being in the political wilderness for 20 years. And 3, if RUTO is to choose a candidate from Gema, he needs a candidate that he can control. This means that he is looking for a leader who is everything that he is not. He does not want someone who undermines his boss at a former head of state's funeral, or a leader who begins campaigning 5 years before the term of his boss is even complete. He will not be looking for a leader who uses Twitter as an outlet to complain about the decisions that his boss has made. RUTO understands that he needs a deputy president that he can control. That is the Gema leader that he requires. Rumors are that Dr. RUTO has favored Professor Kithure Kindiki to be his running mate. This fits his criteria, but a weak Gema candidate can only fit the bill if Raila does not select a strong Gema candidate. And this is how Kalonzo enters RUTO's equation. In sum, Azimio need to wake up to the fact that RUTO is playing with them with the intention of confusing him. Bottom line is that Baba is going to select Martha Karua to be his deputy. This is because she ticks more boxes than Kalonzo. She is from the Gema region, which will warm Raila to the mountain. She is a woman in a time when our country is ready for a first ever female DP. And finally, unlike RUTO, Raila is not afraid of having a strong character by his side.
I think for that we have to give it to RUTO. If he's in fact selected Professor Kithure Kindiki, at least he selected a professor to deputy. But on number 2, it is also something Prof once told us, that, and this is a message to Kalonzo Musyoka, His Excellency, that if Kalonzo at one point took care of his political ambitions in the same way he takes care of his hair, I think
Jesus.
the whole of Ukambani would have water by now. So, and it's because he gets distracted by such moves like RUTO is doing.
Yeah.
At the very end, then he makes very big mistakes.
Absolutely.
Well, the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics just released their 2022 economic survey. And this is what has inspired the top stories in the Nation, Standard and People Daily. The survey paints a very different picture from what Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza alliance have been alluding. They say the economy is failing and stagnating. Ruto even recently went on Twitter to say that the Big Four was bungled and that Uhuru wasted his second term. But we want to tell him that you can fool some people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Indeed.
The economic survey shows that now, more than ever, the Kenyan economy has been resilient and we are building back stronger. Indeed, things are not always as bad as they seem.
Hans Rosling.
This is the resounding lesson in Hans Roslin book called Factfulness, which is a Forthall favorite.
Absolutely.
And a lesson we ought to apply in our politics. When most economies were in a depression, Kenya registered positive economic growth in the middle of a pandemic. In 2021, Kenya's economy grew by 7.5%. By comparison, the US economy only grew by 3.9%. And our neighbors, Tanzania, grew by 5% and Uganda grew by 4.7%. And this is the economy that Kenya Kwanza alleges is as dead as a dodo. And so I ask, if the economy is dead, how did it grow from 4.5 trillion to 13 trillion shillings under President Uhuru Kenyatta in just 9 years? How did Kenya become the 6th largest economy in Africa? And I ask again, if the economy is dead, how did President Uhuru narrow the infrastructure gap by making sure you can travel to Uganda from Kirinyaga without passing through Nairobi? The transport sector that had the largest infrastructure gap before Uhuru took over in 2013 has now had its network doubled in just 9 years. And in 2022, the transport sector, which was the worst hit during the pandemic, is now recording a positive growth of 8%.
Wow.
And if the goal is not the road, but what the road would do for us, this impact of this massive growth is apparent. Trade between Kenya and her neighbors has increased by 58 billion shillings since 2017. President Uhuru's investment in the blue economy through projects like rehabilitating the MV Uhuru and establishing the Kenya Coast Guard has now increased the cargo throughput by 1 million tons.
Wow.
And I ask the third time, if the economy is dead, who has introduced tea and coffee reforms such that our exports have increased? A sector like agriculture has recorded the highest exports of tea Kenya has exported in the last decade. This is all thanks to tea reforms by Munya, who has been busy dismantling cartels at Kilimo House. Tea prices are now at 287 shillings per kilo, having gone up by 87 shillings from 200 shillings per kilo in 2020. And this has stimulated growth in the tea industry while restoring the dignity of farmers' livelihoods.
Absolutely.
And it is the agricultural sector that has contributed to an increase in the number of jobs, with the employment rate being higher than pre-pandemic levels. Actually, an additional 1 million jobs were created in 2021 alone. And if the economy is truly dead, then Ruto and his choir girls should tell us how they have been thriving in this economy.
Bad economy.
How did Oscar Sudi go from being a tout, Makanga, several years ago to being a multimillionaire today?
You see, the transport sector has improved. So all Makangas are improving.
Or Dinde Nyoro, from being a cyber cafe operator to being among the biggest shareholders of Kenya Power. Or even how Ruto can make 1.2 million per month from selling eggs in his farm. Will this happen if our economy was struggling as they are saying?
Nope.
Isn't it ironic then that the people who are the biggest beneficiaries of this economy now want to tell us how the economy is not working for us? Insane. Unless they are being hypocritical or have been stealing funds. Can they tell us which is which? Or should we let the economic survey answer for them?
Wow.
I don't know what to say that, but you see, as a foretold institutional statement during the Kibaki succession, Prof told us that the man who will take over from Y Kibaki will have it rough.
Yes.
And sure enough, economically, Uhuru has had it rough.
Yeah.
Not even mentioning COVID and what came with COVID.
Yeah.
But also the man who will take over from Uhuru is likely to have it easy. And I think by Ruto by proposing that or saying that the economy is doing very badly, it is because he has seen how much the economic fruit is carrying.
Yeah, in 5 years.
Yes, and he's hoping that in the next 5 years, when the boom will happen, he'll be here to tell us that it's actually bottoms up that sorted the economic troubles that we had. And all not knowing that Uhuru was planting
of course
and taking care of this economic tree.
What a schema.
And Sylvia,
he's a scheme, of course.
I love it because you quote, to all the Kenyans who need to hear it, Hans Roslin, things are not always as bad as they seem. Sometimes a choice architect is messing your view.
But anyway, it pains me to talk about Ruto all the time. But anyway, it is now 2 weeks since the demise of former President Mwai Kibaki. And while the nation has just emerged from commemorating his impact on our country, not everyone has been mourning. One such character is Aden Duale, the Garissa Township MP. Remember, he not only represents as many people as an MCA in Thika Township, but he dared to insult our intelligence by suggesting that the only man in Kenya, in the 254, who can be compared to Mwai Kibaki is, wait for it, William Ruto.
Oh.
So today, we do not wish to agree or disagree with Aden Duale and discuss the indefensible. Instead, we will revisit President Uhuru Kenyatta's eulogy of Mwai Kibaki given during the memorial service held at NYAYO Stadium last week. What I remember the most so clearly was the framework President Kenyatta employed to eulogize former President Mwai Kibaki. And he used this framework. Kibaki the man, Kibaki the leader, and Kibaki the visionary.
Wow.
When it came to Kibaki the man, Uhuru posed the question, do you measure a man by victory gained or by how he dealt with those he vanquished? And this question took me back to the 2007-2008 post-election violence. It has been said that this was indeed Kibaki's lowest moment in the 50 years of his public service in
And
Kenya.
our nation's lowest moment as well.
And yet he served and showed up to mourn the 36 lives that were brutally ended in the inferno inside the Kiamba Church in Eldoret. Yes, one could argue that Kibaki mourned the victims in his capacity as the President of Kenya. But where, we still ask, was William Ruto during the funeral? Eldoret was and is his backyard.
Indeed.
If indeed he is to be compared with great leaders like Mwai Kibaki, why didn't Ruto attend that Miss funeral to condole with Kenyans? And another more disturbing point, Ruto has this unusual gift of making good things look bad and also making bad things look good.
That's a fact.
Take, for instance, his revealing speech at Kibaki's burial in Othaya. The deputy president brazenly declared that handshakes are bad for Kenyans. Ruto stood before the nation and before the lying body of Mwai Kibaki and disdained any future use of handshakes, all with a clear aim of causing of ridiculing the 2008 post-election violence handshake and peace gesture that Raila and Kibaki had, and also wanting to ridicule the 2018 Raila Uhuru handshake. This was Ruto's way of dismissing the efforts of all other leaders who had come before him. In retrospect, what this reminds us of Ruto is that he is a man obsessed with victory, and he will know or carry no thought for those that he vanquished.
Yeah.
And finally, In the words of President Uhuru Kenyatta, the measure of a man is revealed by what he does with power.
Yeah.
History can attest to Kibaki's gracious and restrained response when late President Moi demoted him from Vice President and Minister of Finance to Minister of Health. Kibaki admirably lay low and waited for the swelling of the river to take its course. This is in sharp contrast to the actions of William Ruto in his handling of his own battles with his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Ruto unashamedly is answerable only to William Ruto. With every step he takes, Ruto's heart has been revealed as anti-authority and disrespectful of anyone who gets in the way of his pursuit for power.
Absolutely.
He heckles, he undermines, and he misengineers the truth. That was not Kibaki for you. In sum, to equate William Ruto to the late President Mwai Kibaki is pure and absolute nonsense. Anyone doing so reveals a mind that is hell-bent on rewriting history. And anyone writing history must have an alternative agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me end with a quote that asks, should we be rewriting history to make people feel good? That cannot be history. That is psychiatry. The writers of history do not mess with our minds.
Wow. That is very powerful, DK. So we have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines for you. We ask ourselves these 3 questions. Is the headline topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And finally, is it thoughtful or just plain lazy? So let's go through the headlines once more. The Daily Nation, economic boom, but who gained from the growth?
Pessimistic.
The Standard, workers' worst year as economy recovers. The Star, Ruto still ahead, Raila closes gap survey. And the People Daily, rich economy, empty wallets. So as you said, Serbia, Daily Nation, Standard, and People Daily all focus on the economic survey that was released just recently. But I wanted to ask, why does the media have to put a negative spin on every story that they receive?
They're very pessimistic, actually.
Yeah.
What most Kenyans want is instant gratification. Uhuru is focusing on delayed gratification that has better returns in the future. And soon we'll reap the benefit and fruits of our policy investments and infrastructure agenda.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think all the headlines today were lazy. Nothing was positive. Apart from the Star, they try to be different, but nothing new.
It's different. It's referencing a TIFA poll that said Ruto is leading with 39% and Raila with 32%.
I remember you had problems with the way the Star
does their polls.
Does their polls, yes.
So I'd assume that means we have no winning headline?
No winning headlines.
DK, why don't you do us the honor?
Let me do the honors.
So thank you so much for watching our show. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang, Free to Air, GoTV, and Star Times. And don't forget to hit that like button on YouTube. We will leave you with this quote by George R.R. Martin. That's the author of Game of Thrones, for all of you who know it. Always keep your foes confused. If they are never certain who you are or what you want, they cannot know what you are likely to do next. Have a good weekend.
God bless.